It is the final build week. As if by magic, to watch things to celebrate. Yeah, that's week 27, and this is my last long run. Carrying an identical kit of what I will be starting UTMB with, unless it is a hot weather requirement or cold weather requirement, where there will be some amends. Today's long run, I'm hoping to do 5 to 6 hours. So about half of what I did last week. My legs are feeling pretty rubbish. I had a rest day yesterday, however it's taking them a while to warm up. But about 8k in now and just beginning to feel properly warmed up. But the plan is to climb a local mountain and then head back down, refuel at the car, and then see how far I can get for a second rep. Just coming up for 4.5 hours in, and climbed that mountain behind me, down that ridge, heading up this one. About 1800 meters of ascent and 22k. But it's very hot, even up at 2700 meters. Legs are just feeling trashed. Cannot wait for taper week. Run done. Just under 6 hours for about 34k. So about 1/5 of the distance, with just under 1/5 of the climbing. But yeah, feeling tired today. Ready for taper week, I think. Friday of week 27. 3 weeks to the day. And today I am doing a hike on tired legs after yesterday's long run. Started in the evening to try and replicate race conditions, so practice fueling and things like that, and walking with a bigger rucksack on that's full of water, so it's a lot heavier than my race bag. And this is just basically revisiting when I did a few days hiking with a heavier rucksack, so I just want to again make sure I'm not losing that leg strength for walking on tired legs. Essentially, this morning did a power strength and conditioning session, so lots of explosive exercises as well, so definitely walking on tired legs, which is good physical and also mental prep for when I get later into the race and I'm hurting. If I've been in here in training, then hopefully in race day it won't be as bad. That's me done. 700 meters of ascent. So humid today. Up in the clouds, it's still absolutely roasting. So I'm going to empty the water out and then jog down. It is Sunday of week 27 and this is my final run of my final build week. As of tomorrow I will be on taper, so we're just about to head off, do an interval session, steady state runs, and it's just one large block that I'm doing today, so I'm going to head out now and then I'll come back and give you a full summary of how the week's gone. That is the final build week of my UTMB training completed. Looking at the week in detail, it was 126 kilometers with just over 5,000 meters of ascent. So comparing that to some of my other build weeks in earlier July, for example, which were a bit bigger than that, so it has been a bit lower. Also, you'll note with week 27 that there was that slightly lower, so 2 easier weeks in terms of training stress score, as you can see on screen now, and that was a result of having 3 days off due to a slight calf strain, but then that was kind of made up by doing a 10-hour long run, as I highlighted in last week's video. So this week was a bit more like a normal regular training week in that I did a lot more runs in total as well as the total distance. Looking at it in a little bit more detail, Monday was a steady state run, 2 by 30-minute intervals. Tuesday was a hill climb that was up and down a ski slope 3 times, gaining 400 meters of ascent each time, and that involved around 1,500 meters of climbing in total in that session. I then had a rest day on the Wednesday, and then I did my long run on Thursday this week, which was just about 34 kilometers in length and had just under 2,000 meters of ascent, and that was on quite technical terrain and got up to reasonable altitude there as well, higher than I will be during the UTMB, so I was keen to get a bit of altitude there as well, just pushing the body a little bit more, making it a bit more uncomfortable for myself, so come race day hopefully it'll feel easier. The following day I then did a hike up a local mountain here with my backpack full of water, and that involved around 700 meters of ascent in total. On the Saturday I did a 1 hour at Sweet Spot, so I was just running up the road. Rare for me to do a road run, but I wanted to base it on power output, so I was making use of the Stride power meter, and I ran for 1 hour at Sweet Spot, and then I did a shorter sort of 75-second effort as a bit of a test before then jogging all the way back down, very low heart rate for the descent down. And the final session that I did this morning on Sunday was 1 hour 45, and off that I did 52.5 minutes, so half of that run was at, again, kind of sweet spot effort, trying to work on my FTP, functional threshold power, for those of you that use power meters, so just working on that. And that again was sort of a mix of sort of flatter trails and road around here, again just trying to maintain a steady power output. And the reason that I did those 2 runs at the end of the week on sort of roads and running rather than say power hiking up the trails was the first half of this week was very much kind of specific to the race in terms of power hiking on trails, and then the last 2 runs that I did, I wanted to be actually running on tired legs, and the reason for that is there's some large sections of runnable road and trail at UTMB, so I want to make sure I'm keeping some running in my legs and running on tired legs, so I'm used to that. Overall, you can see the week in terms of training stress on screen now, so again it's nowhere near as high as some of the other weeks, but above my average for the last few weeks that I've done, and I'm now going into quite an aggressive taper. I have done a video on my taper strategy, I'll put a link to that up there, but ultimately I'll be doing about half the distance next week than I did this week, and that will also be reflective in terms of the elevation gain as well. Some interesting stats for the year to date, which I'll like to share with you. First off, looking at total elevation climbed this year, I've done over 125,000 meters of ascent, which I'm quite happy with. That's more than I did the whole of last year. Also, total distance run is actually more than I did the whole of last year, and we're only in kind of early to mid-August at this point, so running has increased quite dramatically in terms of total distance covered as well, getting close to 2,500 kilometers run this year. And I feel that overall the training, although there's been the odd week here and there where I've had to reduce training load, I had to switch up my plan because I wasn't able to maintain 2 big build weeks with just the amount of elevation that I was doing here, so I switched it to 1 build, 1 recovery towards the end of the plan. But overall it's been fairly progressive, and you can see that in the progression of my fitness curve that I'll put on screen now. That's the shaded area, and you can see it's steadily been rising since the start of the year. Now on race day that will be lower because now I'm going to taper, therefore I need to reduce my fatigue levels and increase the form, which is the orange line, and ultimately as fitness is also based on the amount of training that you do. The higher fitness and the higher fatigue, they're related. So overall, it will come down a bit before the race, but that's absolutely normal. And now I'm really focusing on the fatigue and the form line in particular, and trying to keep that in a reasonable level, so I don't want to be too well rested, and at the same time I don't want to be going into the race fatigued. I'd much rather go into it kind of at 90% trained than 101% trained. So that's the plan for the next few weeks and the taper period. During the taper period as well, I'm going to be doing a lot of work on my preparation, so that's kit prep, all my planning, food prep for the week of the race, all those sort of things, as well as mental prep. And I'll be sharing more advice on that in the coming weeks, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos, and hit the bell notification button. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, and if you'd like to receive the TMR Coaching newsletter, there's a link to my website down below where you can fill in the sign up form. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.